Oh, well, we're going to try something just a little bit different this time around. We're going to start by taking a look at some of what Emer de Vattel Law of Nation contains as translated in the 1797 version. Um, de Vattel lived from 25th of April 1714 to the 28th of December in 1767. We'll also take some more words and their legal definitions, and in all likelihood this time we'll be jumping around back and forth. Well, our first word here is boy, legitimate child, a male child. Oddly, there is no legal definition for girl. Now, legitimacy, lawful birth, the condition of being born in wedlock, the opposite of illegitimacy or bastardly. To make lawful, to confer legitimacy, to place a child born before marriage on the footing of those born in lawful wedlock. Legitimate, it's an adjective, that which is lawful, legal, recognized by law, or according to law as legitimate children, legitimate authority, lawful power, legitimate sport or amusement. Legitimation, the making legitimate or lawful that which was not originally so, especially the act of legalizing the status of a bastard. Legitimation, per sequens matrimonium, the legitimation of a bastard by the subsequent marriage of his parents. There's a whole lot more that plays into all this, including the birth certificate once again, but with some real research into this, you'll start to see a way out of being of the world. Remember the power of the words, and just how important they are as we see in Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Now for a little from Vattel. Work is found in the 1797 translation. The first Christian emperors exercised all the functions of the heads of the church. They made laws on subjects relating to it, summoned councils and presided in them, appointed and deposed bishops, and in Switzerland there are wise republics whose sovereigns, knowing the full extent of the supreme authority, have rendered the ministers of religion subject to it, without offering violence to their consciousness. A nation or a state is, and has been said at the beginning of this work, a body politic. The authority of all over each member, therefore, essentially belongs to the body politic. And we've put the definition of body politic out in an earlier video. If the body of the nation keeps in its own hands the empire or the right to command, it is a popular government. A democracy if it entrusts it to a certain number of citizens. To a senate, it establishes an aristocratic republic. Finally, if it confines the government to a single person, the state becomes a monarchy. Excuse me for that. These three kinds of government may be variously combined and modified. Note, a popular government would be a republican government by legal definition. We ought therefore to account as sovereign states those which have united themselves to another more powerful, but an unequal alliance in which, as Aristotle says, to the more powerful is given more honor, and to the weaker more assistance. The conditions of these unequal alliances may be infinitely varied. Finally, several sovereign and independent states may unite themselves together by a perpetual confederacy, without ceasing to be, each individually, a perfect state. They will together constitute a federal republic. Their joint deliberations will not impair the sovereignty of each member, though they may, in certain respects, put some restraint on the exercise of it in virtue of voluntary engagements. Okay, now some more from Black's Law, including a couple refreshers. Confederacy, criminal law, the association or banding together of two or more persons for the purpose of committing an act or furthering an enterprise which is forbidden by law, or which, through lawful in itself, becomes unlawful when made the object of the confederacy. Conspiracy is a more technical term for this offense. the act of two or more who combine together to do any damage or injury to another or to do any unlawful act. International law, a league or agreement between two or more independent states whereby they unite for their mutual welfare and the furtherance of their common aims. The term may apply to a union so formed for a temporary or limited purpose, as in the case of an offensive and defensive alliance, but it is more commonly used to denote that species of political connection between two or more independent states by which a central government is created, invested with certain powers of sovereignty, mostly external, and acting upon the several component states as its units, which, however, retain their sovereign powers for domestic purposes and some others. See federal government, and we've got federal government in an earlier video as well. Confederation, a league or compact for mutual support, particularly of princes, nations, or states. Such was the colonial government during the Revolution. From Vattel, this obligation, so natural to each individual of God's creation, is not derived to nations immediately from nature, but from agreements by which civil society is formed. It is therefore not absolute, but conditional. That is to say, it supposes a human act, to wit, the social compact. A civil society, usually a state, nation, or body politic. Social contract or compact. In political philosophy, a term applied to the theory of the origin of society, associated chiefly with the names of Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau, though it can be traced back to the Greek sophist Rousseau. Contract social held that in the pre-social state, man was unwarlike and timid. Laws resulted from the combination of men who agreed, for mutual protection, to surrender individual freedom of action. Government must therefore rest on the consent of the governed. Some more from Vattel. If a nation is obliged to preserve itself, it is no less obliged carefully to preserve all its members. The nation owes this to itself, since the loss even of one of its members weakens it, and this injurious to its preservation. It owes this also to the members in particular, in consequence of the association, for those who compose a nation are united for their defense and common advantage, and none can justly be deprived of this union and of the advantage he expects to derive from it, while he on his side fulfills the conditions. By an evident consequence from what has been said, the nation ought carefully to avoid, as much as possible, whatever might cause its destruction or that of the state, which is the same thing. And I think this is going to be a good place to stop for tonight so that we don't get this too long. But remember, this is just a drop in the bucket. There's so much more we can get into, and we will, a little at a time. And to help prevent information overload, we'll try to keep these short. Because if you spend too much time digging into all this at once, you could experience information overload or even burnout. Therefore, if you found any of this to be beneficial in any way, then please check out my YouTube and Rumble channels. And always remember to share across all your social platforms, but most importantly, with family and friends in other countries. Gratitude to all.